Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. A lot of people seem to be talking about the Cybertuck lately, speculating on what versions might come out first and how much they might cost, as we are nearing them going into production. We're seeing more and more progress on the Cybertuck production line in Texas, and it's starting to come together. We don't have too big a hopes for this year, as Elon has set the bar relatively low in expectations, likely in the range of thousands of Cybertrucks produced, not achieving volume production until sometime next year. And we've been told it will ramp very slowly, despite us being told that it would hit volume production in the shareholder meeting back in August last year. Of course, we had been told the initial launch of the Cybertruck would be even earlier than that too, and it has certainly taken its time. What the holdup is, though, is still somewhat unclear. The original Cybertruck has not changed much since the latest version we've been seeing, although we haven't actually been informed of any of the new alleged specifications of the latest version either, and we wait with anticipation to hear whenever Tesla hold any event, in the hope we might get to hear some new features, but disappointingly without avail. It's obviously a very original vehicle and will thus require original manufacturing to accompany, which will take time to refine and improve, hence the slow ramp we're told to expect. But if Tesla do achieve volume production sometime next year, like Elon said on the Q4 earnings call, then that will certainly suffice. Achieving a run rate of around 250,000 units a year production would be great, and hopefully even more ramping in 2025 too. People speculate on what the actual production rate may very well be for the vehicle when fully ramped, and it tends to lie between 300 and 500,000 units a year, yet nothing official has been given to us, aside from one day hitting volume production. But given the demand for the vehicle and the sheer size and application, there should be a great profit margin that will make it hugely profitable anywhere within that range of units produced. I'm seeing more people trying to guess the actual price of the vehicle too. As we know, the original prices were just too good to be true really, with the single motor variant starting at just initially a ridiculous $40,000. So much car for what at the time was about the price of a Model 3. And now I think anyone who thinks that will be the price will likely be laughed at. Things have certainly changed since, such as demand for EVs has skyrocketed, and we've seen how popular a movement they've become. Yet aside from the low-quality Chinese EVs, we haven't seen any competition able to price themselves competitively with Tesla. And even despite such attempts, they appear to be done at a loss, compared to Tesla's substantial profit margins. We've seen a lot of inflation since the event too, which will further add to the cost of the vehicle. That was not there previously. Hence another reason why we expect prices to be higher. The fact the vehicle has taken so long to get into production means there is added complexity, which could also add to cost. But the biggest reason for the prices to be higher is the fact that the pre-orders are approaching close to an insane 2 million, demonstrating that there is a massive amount of demand for this vehicle. And what happens when there's too much demand for a vehicle and you end up with waiting lists of over a year or possibly much more? Well, what have Tesla done historically? They raise the prices, of course. Tesla are not shy about raising prices whenever demand is too high, nor are they scared to lower the prices when demand drops. They are known for a dynamic pricing model, unlike other manufacturers. Although legacy autos are also guilty of the same thing, but it's done at the car dealer level, where dealers will add a premium to their vehicles when demand is high and there is limited supply. But Tesla doesn't have a dealer model and sells directly to the consumer, and is thus able to adjust the retail price at a moment's notice. So yes, the production line is coming on, and has taken some time compared to how Tesla have already been making Model Ys from the Texas factory. But I believe the main holdup is the 4680 cells. We are seeing and hearing progress at least, and the latest update is that they will be at a run rate of around 20 gigawatt hours a year by the end of this year. Now, the Cybertruck has been designed to take the 4680 cells, so without enough 4680 cells, there are not enough Cybertrucks. Yes, it probably is possible with some retooling to use 2170s if they really had to, at least temporarily, but as the initial production rate of the Cybertruck is so low, I doubt this will be necessary. Now, one issue with the 4680 cells, or at least the Fremont 4680s, is the energy density is lower than 2170 cells. This is due to the fact mainly that they're not using silicon in the anode. However, we do have the Gen 2 cells they're making in Texas now, which may very well be using silicon, and thus might have a similar energy density to 2170. The thing is, we were told there would be a tri-motor Cybertruck with 500 miles of range. We have since also been told there'll be a quad-motor version, which we may expect with similar range. The Cybertruck has to launch as the best electric pickup truck on the market, and range is going to be one of the major measurements of that title. Tesla will need to offer the longest range, and although Elon said price is more important than range, and at the end of the day a larger battery is like driving around with a bag of potatoes, the Cybertruck is different, as it will need towing capabilities. A lot of the customers will want to tow, which obviously further increases the weight and hence why a longer range is required. However, the range of the 4680 Model Y was disappointing compared to the long range, with around 270 miles. So Tesla needs to get a much larger, heavier car to 500 miles of range with the same cells. So how can they achieve this? Well, I think for one, given the sheer size of the Cybertruck and the wheelbase compared to the Model Y, there's clearly enough room for a much larger battery. Of course, if Tesla work out how to add the silicon into the anode with the dry battery electrode process, that will increase the energy density of the cells. So with a larger, more energy-dense battery, then the Cybertruck really could get a long range. Possibly about 150 kilowatt-hour battery in there. That should be sufficient to get between 450 and 500 miles of range, depending on the weight of the Cybertruck. So yes, it is certainly possible Tesla could get that range. And of course, over time, we do expect the energy density of these cells to increase. So even if when it launches it only has 450 miles of range, it may reach 500 miles of range in 2025 or something. The other way is to double stack the cells, like Rivian have done. That means there is ample room for more cells, and it could probably have a 200 kilowatt-hour battery if Tesla really wanted. I mean, the electric Hummer has 212 kilowatt-hour battery, but weighs an insane 9,000 pounds. Historically, when Tesla launches a new model, they'd like to initially launch the more expensive versions first, as obviously they fetch a higher price and thus more profit. Also, due to the fact that the production is going to start slow, then there should even be sufficient 4680 cells, and the Cybertruck production will not be limited by the number of batteries available. The limiting factor will be the number of Cybertrucks. So it would make sense to start with the versions that sell for the most, and bring in the most profit, which might mean no dual or single motor for some time. Which brings us on to price. If Tesla launched the quad motor, and are only making several thousand this year, then how much will this car cost? We know the tax credit for a truck to qualify has to be under $80,000, but I think a quad-motor Cybertruck will cost more. The tri-motor was initially announced at $70,000, but as we've said, a lot has happened since then. But if there are only thousands available, and we have almost 2 million people wanting one, then just imagine how much some of them would pay to have one of the very first Cybertrucks in the world. Therefore, I think they'll likely be in excess of $100,000. I mean, we've had Teslas cost quite a bit more than that in the past, so perhaps it's even up around $120,000 or more. And there'd likely be plenty of people who will pay that. Yes, I'm sure it's upsetting for many reservation holders who were early on the list, and this is way out of their budget, and they ordered a dual motor at just $50,000. But this is likely not going to be so much a first-come, first-served basis. It's going to be a more of who can pay the most now scenario, and Tesla will probably keep selling this version until they're closer to volume production. Also, remember the overhead of the production line with a low run rate and all the R&D that has gone into it. Tesla is still a business that needs to make money, and at those prices, perhaps the factory line may even break even at such low run rates, which would be good, as we know how much factory cash furnaces can cost. We're somewhat talking about two different things here as well, yet calling it the same thing. A quad motor with 500 miles of range. In theory, Tesla could launch a quad motor with any amount of range, whether it's 300, 400 or 500. But I think most of you would agree that we would expect it to have at least more range than any other electric pickup truck on the market. I mean, this is the almighty Cybertruck, the best Tesla ever. In reality, when you think about it, there's no way they can launch something inferior on the market. Perhaps the bare minimum they could get away with is 420 miles, as that number does at least have a special meaning for Elon and Tesla. Anyway, we're nearly through the first quarter of 2023 already, so it may only be about 6 more months or so until we actually get to find out. There'll be so much build-up around the launch of this car, and customers have been waiting so long to receive their Cybertrucks. I really don't think Tesla have a choice of letting anyone down this time. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.